Red?
Hi. I'm curious, are the informants incentivized? Do they make more money if there's an arrest?
Okay, so the question is, do the informants make more money if there is an arrest?
So it's not entirely clear. We do know that the very few instances before this where we've had transparency into the informant arena, the zenith of it was a case in Los Angeles where the informant, Craig Monte, after years of infiltrating a whole series of mosques across Southern California, sexual blackmail, a whole range of things that he engaged in on behalf of the Bureau. The reason that he basically blew a whistle and joined with the ACLU and filed suit was because the Bureau refused to pay him. And you saw in the film the scene where they stiff Saeed in his payments, right? I mean, it's remarkable, not just the opportunism in this whole paradigm, but also, quite frankly, how much the government in all of this is a cheapskate. and I do want to drive one point home because I think it might escape folks just looking out at the crowd. This is not an exclusively Muslim experience, nor is it an exclusively Puerto Rican or African American or Native American experience. If you visit Terre Haute, Indiana, or Marion, Illinois, the two federal facilities where people convicted of terrorism offenses are held, a solid 30 to 40% of those inmates convicted of terror offenses are now middle-aged, previously young white men from the Pacific Northwest whose crimes would be most appropriately described as environmentally motivated vandalism or, in the very worst cases, arson. And some of the most recent cases are Occupy activists in Cleveland and Chicago who are accused of terror offenses based on almost identical sorts of sting operations.
Just one more note on the question of what informants' payments. A lot of people ask, well, why would Saeed participate in this film? And we didn't entirely understand at the beginning of the process either. And I think what we came to understand was at the height of his career, he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. He said at one point he was making $40,000 a month. And by the time we met him, he was barely getting reimbursed for gas money. And what had happened was that in the case of Tariq Shah, he had to testify, and at that point his identity was exposed, and he no longer had the social network within the New York Muslim